Hello everyone. I've decided to make a quick TonTon CCTV installation video. I've been looking for a new CCTV system for a while. I came across TonTon system on Amazon, and I didn't know a great deal about what I wanted, but I looked at the reviews, and the reviews for their system was great. And if you're looking for a system, you'll probably see the reviews are really good, and that's what made me choose this particular system. You may choose another system because it's a better quality system, and so on and so. I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but the reviews were enough for me to go with this system. So the things I wanted to talk about were the following, because when you buy a system, to me these are the things that interested me the most. I didn't care about all the details. I cared about, is it going to be good quality? Am I going to get a good picture? Can I set it up easy enough? What about the software? What's that like? And am I going to get any support when I need it? So I thought those are the key points to sort of go into straight away, and that way you may not want to know about my installation. I've covered my installation just so that you can see, but points 1 to 4 are probably what's going to make you decide whether you want this system or not. So moving on. So image quality. This was the most important thing for me, image quality. It may also be for you. Now I've installed a camera. It's pretty high up. It's on the second floor. The first floor of my house, but right at the top on the outside. And what I've shown there is the picture of my front drive. Now there are a number of cars in the drive at the moment. The first one is 14 meters away, the next one is 16, and the furthest one is 21 meters away. Now, whilst this picture here doesn't show it so well, I can guarantee you on the car that's 14 meters away, you can definitely read the number plate of the car. The one that's 16 meters, you can make out some of the numbers, but not really. And the 21 meters away, not a chance. You cannot read the number plate. But for me, the fact that I can read the one that's 14 meters away is good enough. And you can see what each of the vehicles are. The one on the top left, there's a Nissan. The next one's a Mercedes, and the other one's a Toyota. You can see that at least. So it's good quality. It is not the best quality, but you're not paying for the best quality. You're paying a reasonable amount of money and you get a decent quality image. Now this camera at the moment, because I'm filming a screen, you don't get the sharpness. But I'm going to show you 1 or 2 examples, so I'm going to move on to that now. So here you'll see my front hallway. You can see it's pretty sharp, the image. This is me filming a screen again, so you don't necessarily get the best image by doing this, but what you will see is how sharp all the lines are, and you can clearly make out objects on the little cabinet there on the left, the plant, a bunch of wires on the floor, and the doormat. I mean, it's as clear as I could want it to be for home use. So here is another one of my cameras. This is set up in the garage. Again, you can see the car in quite some detail and all the junk on the left hand side. You can pick up the individual items. You've got a broom there, you've got a jet wash machine, and a number of other bits, so you can see quite clearly what's in there. And if somebody were to walk in, you would be able to easily make out their face. And here you go again. This is my front drive. You can see a couple of guys in the front drive doing a bit of work. They're just installing something on my garage, but hopefully you can. Well, they're not moving a great deal right now, but there's definitely movement going on. Again, you can see the cars, and I'm not sure if you can read the number plate, but that Mercedes has been moved slightly further forward now, and I can read the number plate, but perhaps on this image you can't. Okay, so overall, image quality I'm happy with, and I think most people using it in a home environment will also be happy with. You will not get the finer detail. Something like a £2,000 commercial system, you get real detail. But for the most part, you don't need that at home. And for the system I purchased, for the money I paid, the quality is adequate, if not good. And I cannot see why I would need anything more. So let's go on to the ease of installation. So on the left you can see an image of my installation. This is whilst I was setting up, obviously. I have since put cameras in the actual places, but I wanted to test it to make sure things actually work. So you've got a screen there, you've got, that's just a temporary monitor I put in place. On the left hand side you've got, over here you've got the NVR, which is a network video recorder, and I've got one of the cameras just here. So on the right hand side, I've just shown how it all goes together. So you've got a TV monitor, NVR and camera. I've just put arrows there to show you which one's which. I think it was quite clear anyway, but there you have it. What I've then gone on to do is to show you how it all links up. So the NVR, you need a power supply unit. You've got to plug it up to something. What I haven't shown here is the NVR will also then link to your network, your internet somehow from your internet router. So there'll be a cable going into that, and I'll show you a photograph of my cable going into my router because mine's a unique setup. I've had to get an internet extender because my router and my NVR cannot be placed together because of location. It just simply won't work. So I'm going to show you a photograph after this as to how I've connected my NVR to my internet. From the NVR, you've got a cable going to your TV. That might be HDMI or VGA. And then your Wi-Fi camera also needs to be plugged into a socket. Now you'll note there's no connection between the Wi-Fi camera and the actual NVR. On wired systems, you'll have to run wires everywhere, and that can be meters and meters of wires around the house. Obviously, the whole point of a Wi-Fi system is you do not need that. And in my case, I did not need that because I purchased the Wi-Fi system. All in all, installation was quite easy. It was pretty much straight out of the box. I connected it up as I've shown here, and it was working. I didn't have to link up the cameras to the NVR or do some sort of find and search kind of function. I just switched them on, turned on my TV screen, and bang, pictures were on the screen immediately. So this is the device I've had to use to extend my internet connection. So what I've done, I've got this TP-Link thing, and if you purchase one of these, it'll tell you how to link it to your router. From there, I've taken a internet cable, or a network cable rather, and plugged it up to the back of my NVR. And you can see also here is the VGA cable going to my monitor. I would have rather used HDMI, and I will use HDMI because I'm going to replace the screen. The screens are just a temporary screen for setup purposes. Let's talk a little bit about software setup. I don't want to go into too much detail here, only because I think most people here will figure out the little bits that they need to figure out and won't touch upon all the software. I'm just going to cover one particular area of the software setup. So the software setup, the areas you can start to play about with your camera signal strength if it's weak, setting up detection zones and motion recording, and image display settings. Now really the thing that I think is going to be most interesting to people, because the problem you're going to face is the first one, where your camera signal strength is weak. I think you'll figure out how to do the detection zones and the motion recording really easy. That's not going to be a problem. And image display settings, that's just like brightness and so on and so forth. That you'll figure out. Camera signal strength is probably the one that's going to be the most important to you, as it was for me, so that's the only one I'm covering here. So I'll cover this as we actually go into my installation. So to understand how to play with the camera signal strength, you're going to have to watch the my installation part, which I'm about to go into. But prior to that, the last item I think you'll be interested in is going to be the support from the provider, because without support, as you can appreciate with something as complex as this, it becomes incredibly difficult. So the support, well, all I can say is wow. The support has been amazing. I cannot tell you just how good the support's been. If you read the feedback, you'll hear people saying support has been great. It's an understatement. It's been amazing. I'm going to give you an indication as to how good the communication has been. So prior to purchase rather, I got in touch with the support desk to ask a few questions. Basic things about what do I need for my setup and so on. And they advised me immediately what I needed. This is prior to purchase, and they were communicating via email. In fact, no, via WhatsApp, and that's what I've got on my screen. They do communicate via email, but I chose WhatsApp because I just felt I'd get a much quicker response. So I messaged them, telling them my requirements. They gave me all sorts of links to their products and saying, you need this, you need that. And the response time was fantastic. Now you've got to bear in mind, if you're UK based, Europe based, well, TonTon are based in China, so you're going to have to allow for that difference. But even then, the time in between me asking a question and getting a response has never been a problem. And the main point of contact there and you'll read this in the reviews, is Millie, and I cannot tell you how good she is. Responds to everything as soon as she can, and it seems like she's always working. Now, I'm just showing you the screen here because I've asked many questions. I've had the system for about a week, and some people would expect 2 or 3 responses back, but I have pages on pages on pages here of stuff, and some of it not necessarily so relevant, but it just goes on. And I show you this only to show you this, to give you some confidence that when you need support, they will give you support. So if that's a concern, well, that probably should be the least of your concerns. And there are so few things here to be concerned about because the whole thing is good. So let me talk to you now about my installation. The reason I want to do this is because it may be quite different to your installation. It may not be, but I think it's relevant because you'll get an idea about not just how good the quality of the actual system is, but the actual technical installation and the problems you might face. Okay, so I chose an 8-channel system, which requires a 8-channel NVR. Not 8 NVRs, as that sort of indicates there. It's an 8-channel NVR with 8 separate cameras. On the bottom in the red circle, I've got a few extra bits, and these aren't things that you're necessarily going to need, but I needed them because of my installation, and you'll see why in a minute. I needed a range extender because I needed the Wi-Fi to go quite some distance, and I'll show you that in a minute. I wanted a TV monitor. You might use the TV you already have, but I wanted a separate one. And in the bottom corner there, I've just got another support message from Millie. I will have a look at that in a minute. I also needed a Powerline network extender, which I showed you a few minutes ago. So that's for my installation, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so camera placement. This is important because obviously this is down to you and what coverage you want and what areas you want to see. You can see, and I'll show you more of where my cameras are in a minute, but the further you place it away from the NVR, being a Wi-Fi system, the weaker the signal. So you have to be careful of that. So if you can see this is my house layout. In blue, you've got the ground floor cameras. In orange, you have the first floor cameras. Now, I have on here, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cameras, all of them up in place. Now, I'll show you where my NVR is. My NVR is there in the house. So if you look at these cameras, not such a problem. They're pretty close to the NVR, so the signal is not bad. However, on the left, you've got some which are quite far away, and by quite far away, I'm talking probably, these ones here are probably about, I would say about 12, 13 meters away. No, actually more, about 16 meters away. And this one here, right at the edge, is probably about 30 meters plus away, 30, 32, 33 meters away, this one here. So there's no way that was going to get a good signal strength. So something had to be done. So what I introduced here, just put that at the top, so there's stuff in red here, it's too far, no signal. Actually, I was getting a slight signal. It wasn't no signal. Sometimes the signal will totally drop out, but mostly what it was too weak to give me a visual. So where there was no signal, something had to be done, obviously. So I stuck an extender in. An extender is it's a separate purchase. TonTon will supply if you speak with them, and it's not incredibly expensive. It's worth asking them if you need it. It looks a little like that. No, in fact, it looks exactly like that. Now you have to set that up with the cameras that you want extending. For me, it was these cameras here. And they'll give you instructions how to do that. You literally plug each camera up and you press a button and it syncs it with the extender. And that extender now will be effectively like the router for these cameras here. And then there's a process of linking this to your NVR. Now once you've done that, you'll find the signal strength goes right up. It should go to full, as long as you place the extender and the cameras you've associated with that extender in a reasonable distance away from each other. Now, you might not want to do that because you may not want to spend extra money, and maybe your house doesn't. You can place your NVR in a more central location, and maybe you won't have that problem. But I did, and I used it, and this is how it sort of bounced on the signal. So from the, you can see all the way from the NVR, it signal to the extender, and from the extender to one camera. And then what you can do is within the software, you've got the ability to actually extend from one camera to another. So you actually bounce the signal from here to here to here. So this actually, these cameras here act as extenders as well. So you can actually get quite far from the NVR just by bouncing the signal. Now, one of the things you've got to be mindful of when you do that is that if that camera were to go down or be switched off, well, then this camera will also lose signal. So just be careful of that. But you might decide that you don't want to use an extender because you're not going to buy one. The alternative is just stick another camera in between, if you can, and if your setup allows. And by that I mean you may not want to put the camera in your lounge, but if you can find an appropriate location, what you can do is take the signal from the NVR to the camera, bounce it to the next camera, and bounce it to the final camera. And I'm going to go into the screen to show you how that's done in a second. Now, sorry for the lack of stability, because I'm literally filming as I show you how to use cameras to bounce signal. It's called repeating. Apologies here because all my cameras aren't on. I've just switched a few off because I've been doing a bit of work. You can see disconnected. That's just because I'm replacing or relocating them rather. But if I right click and go to manage my video and go to these are on my cameras. You can see some of them, as I say, are not connected at the moment. That's fine, they'll be connected later. Click on repeater. Now what this will do, it will give me a list of all my cameras, and you will see on the right hand side here signal strength of each. They vary depending on distance from NVR. And then what I can do, NVR is a source. I can take camera 2 for example, and I can say I want camera 2 to bounce the signal onto camera 3 or any one of these. You'll also note here I've got my router, because I plug this, by the router I mean the extender, the one I showed you earlier. My NVR links to my router, and I've got 2 cameras which come off the router. One of them is switched off at the moment, as you can see, some of them are switched off, but basically that's how the setup works. So it is just, click, change the numbers, and you're good to go. And it makes a big difference. I mean, I was getting nothing at the back at all. The extender, which is using to bounce signal, that's changed everything. Now what I'm going to try and do is show you where I've located some of these cameras. Now what you can see here, apologies again, they're not all switched on. I just didn't have time to do that. But you can see 4 of them are switched on right now. So I'm going to show you the location of each of these cameras. Now this is one of the cameras. This is my hallway. It's mounted internally on the ceiling. All I've got is a power cable. I'll tidy the wiring up later. The only thing going to it is a power cable. Again, quite similar. I've got one in my kitchen, and this sits on top of a TV. It's quite high up, and again, the only thing going to that is a power cable. And now there in the top left hand corner, you've got the one in my garage. The wiring needs a bit of tidying up. Again, this is a fresh installation. And I have the socket in the top corner, which made it very convenient. Now, a point to note, you may not always be able to get power to the camera easily. So I'm going to show you 1 or 2 locations where I was not able to get the power to the location easily. Now, hopefully you can see it. Just about there. That's my outside camera on the first floor. Obviously getting power there wasn't easy, so I've had to route the power from I would say about 20 meters away, which requires an extender. I actually had my extender built out of cabling. You can actually purchase them, but because I had to go quite a distance, I had one made up. Now I've had to do that for 3 locations, this being one of them. So I've got another one here. Again, I've had to route the power with a shorter cable, but a cable, I had to still get another cable. It wasn't the standard cable that came with it. The black wire that's running from the top of it going inside, ignore that. That was an extra antenna which comes in the package, I believe, to give just to place antenna closer to the NVR. It's no longer necessary. I need to take that off. since I put the extender in place, that isn't necessary. That's actually causing me a bit of a problem at the moment, so I'm going to take that off later today. A bit higher up, over to the right there, if you can see it, sorry I just lost the focus by putting my finger in the picture, is my additional rear camera. Again, that's a long way away from the router. I had to build a power line for that as well, a power line and extender, and both of those two are linked to my extender. That's the little square unit I showed you earlier on, and that extender is switched off at the moment, and that's why when you looked at my screen we had a bunch of cameras dead. So overall, as you can see, I'm quite happy with the system. The quality is good. The build quality of the units is worth mentioning too. The cameras seem very solid. The NVR looks like a good unit. There's nothing I could say about the system itself that I would complain about. There's anything wrong with it. It's a good system. The only area that troubled me a bit was signal strength, but we now rectified that with the extender. Installation was easy. Quality of the image, as I said, really good enough for me. I have no issues with that at all, and I've got to say again, the support is amazing. I've never had that level of support from any provider of any service, really, that I can remember. So thank you, TonTon. Thank you, Millie. Millie's the one who's given me all the support. And if you do go ahead and purchase, and you are looking for a home system that's decent quality and a really good price, I don't think you can get better than this. In fact, I'm going to show you one more thing. I previously had a Yale system, and I had 6 cameras on my Yale system. I had it up for a little while, I think probably about 2 years, and then I got rid of it. The quality wasn't good, it kept failing, but one thing good, certainly, the cameras never switched off. By failing, what I meant, it kept failing to record. So the NVR was terrible. The camera quality wasn't great. It was always on, but it just wasn't a good system. I wasn't pleased with it, and the support was pretty much via email, and that could take a day or two to get a response. And I didn't like that. And the app you got with it wasn't particularly good, the phone app, which is another thing that's worth mentioning. There is an app that comes with the TonTon system. Yeah, you'll find the app on Google Play. It's called ISM Kit, and I'm going to go ahead and actually show you the app.